Welcome to The Holistic Nurse with your host, Peggy Smith. Peggy will introduce and educate her viewers about the differences between alternative, holistic, and complementary medical therapies. Her goal is to empower the lay medical consumer to learn how to advocate for themselves. So now, please welcome the host of The Holistic Nurse, Peggy Smith.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Sometimes we have guests, as you saw last week, we had an eye doctor on the show. This week, because everybody seems to be getting more and more stressed the more they watch TV, I'm going to explain the physiology of emotions, what their purpose is in our life, and how we can modulate and actually use them to maintain our health, not stress us out. So, exactly what are emotions? Emotions are a complex phenomenon. They're subjective experiences that have physiological and behavioral changes depending on how we train ourselves to react to them. They're not just feelings, though. It's a way of our body kind of preparing us for action to protect us if we're in a fearful situation. Um, that there really is a healthy purpose in our lives to have emotions. And uh, the purpose, though, from an evolutionary standpoint, they enhance survival by activating the fear response. It helps us protect ourselves from danger. Love helps us foster social bonds, which are essential for reproduction and cooperation. Um, there may be some people that have a different opinion on that, but they're quick. They adapt quickly, and over the course of lifetime history, from the beginning of time, they really haven't changed a whole bunch. Just the way we react to things. The brain is the emotional hub, and it's the part of the brain is the limbic system. And we have three parts of that. Well, actually, we have more than three parts, but the ones we're going to focus on today is the amygdala. That's an almond-shaped structure, which we're going to show you a diagram for. It's at the base of the right here, see amygdala. And the purpose of the amygdala, it quickly processes sensory information that we identify. And it determines before we even know it sometimes whether or not it's a threat or we're in danger. If it feels that it's a threat, then it triggers that fight or flight response, and it sends signals to other parts of the body. Sometimes we get that fight or flight response just because we're overusing our anxiety skills. And when we send the signals to other parts of our body reacts physiologically in our gut, our heart, sometimes headaches, anxiety attack symptoms. That's how powerful these invisible emotional hub can do. The hippocampus, which is right over here, is on the other side of the brain, kind of almost directly across from the amygdala. That's the part of the brain that is the memory center. It provides an explanation to the signals that the amygdala is sending the brain. And let's say maybe when you were a child and you unfortunately bitten by a dog or something, uh, the amygdala might see a dog coming to you. Maybe it's a large dog. The hippocampus memory is going to say, oh my God, I'm going to get bit again or something. And that's not really based in reality. So we have to learn to be in touch with our feelings and respond appropriately to the present day situations that we're in. The hypothalamus is the area that links the nervous system to the endocrine system, and that's what activates our autonomic nervous system. Hypothalamus is right above the amygdala, a little bit higher up in the brain. Still, as you can see, the base of the brain is here. That's your spine. So it's like the frontal part of your brain. And the brain, every part of our body has a function, even though sometimes those functions might seem annoying. If you've got got to get somewhere, and your body's GI system has other ideas. It can be annoying, but you've got to keep your sense of humor and listen to your body and meet what your body's trying to say. The hypothalamus releases hormones that activates motion, and it also controls involuntarily bodily functions like your heart rate and your breathing. We've had other shows in the past that talk to you about how you can control your breathing and some tools that holistic practitioners teach, like meditation and mindfulness, to just kind of slow yourself down long enough, at least, to look at the stimuli that your brain is processing and decide consciously how you need to react in a healthy way, how you can react. The emotional response from your body is two main branches that work in opposition to each other. One is the sympathetic nervous system, and that's the part of the system that's like a gas pedal. Um, you can slow it down, you can make it go faster. Uh, when you get a physical, it can cause a physical response, like maybe somebody says you're really cute, and if you're female, you start blushing and get kind of embarrassed, but you're still thrilled about it. um, but it can also show how our emotional state affects our physical health. uh, Chronic repetition of unhealthy responses to the emotions that are being processed in the amygdala and the hippocampus sometimes end up in autoimmune disorder symptoms, Crohn's disease or irritable bowel, asthma. We know that's a physiological problem. In your lungs, it's a real thing. It's not imaginary. You really can't breathe if you're having an asthma attack without some medication and slowing down. Uh, but there's a new field of science. It's called psychoneuroimmunology. And that's the study of the interaction between physiological responses that our body, our nervous system has, and the immune system. It's almost like if you're having an anxious reaction to something, it's almost like an allergic reaction to yourself, especially if it's not appropriate for whatever real events are happening. And your body is the unconscious mind for these symptoms. There's three particular resources that I'm going to recommend to anybody that would like to go into this deeper. I do not have any financial connection or benefit from recommending these, except that I've read a lot of books on these topics, and these particular books are very good. The first one, The Molecules of Emotion. It's why you feel the way you feel. It's the science behind mind-body medicine. The author is Candice Pert, PhD. There's a foreword by Deepak Chopra, and she really goes into a layman's way of understanding not only why you're feeling the way you are, but what you can do to modulate the feelings if they're not appropriate, if they're too strong for the situation. Another very good resource is How Emotions Are Made. It's The Secret Life of the Brain. And although the print is small, you can get this on audiobooks too if you're not a reader. But the information, it just has so many fresh and reasonable and practical ideas of how you can be the master of your emotions and letting your emotions um, control you. One example that comes to mind just this weekend, I'm in Philadelphia, so our Phillies were just playing down in Florida. There was a Phillies fan who caught a baseball for his 10-year-old son. Another woman's reactions were a little bit, I'll say, out of control for the situation. And the father, trying to set a good example for his son, gave up the ball to this lady who seemed to really need it more than he did. And just to show his son that you can stop and look at a situation and make choices that don't escalate it. And we all need to get better skills on de-escalation, I think, these days. Sometimes it starts with just not watching as much TV, if that's what is a trigger for you. The last book, which is also very helpful, is The Emotion Code. and it teaches you how to release trapped emotions and become more effective in creating abundant health, love, and happiness. There's an update, a forward here by Tony Robbins, the public speaker and motivator. These books really have some valuable information to explain, how you can uh, actually function better, and be happier, because nobody likes that feeling, the negative physical feelings you get when you're anxious, and it does interfere with your work, even if you talk yourself out of it and say that it's not. Uh, One of the ways you can modulate your responses, we've talked about mindfulness and meditation. Those practices strengthen the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. And that diagram is, it's on Google. It's a comment. It's a general open access diagram that you can find on the internet. But by focusing on the present moment without judging, and you're learning not to judge your own self for having what you perceive to be negative responses, but just watching it and observing, you're actually increasing and learning how to regulate them, so that obviously, if your brain is perceiving that you're in a fire, your house is on fire, you need to respond to that, and not just be, very placid. Oh, yeah, maybe it's a fire, but I don't have to react, because I don't react anymore with my emotions. Your emotions are still important and necessary to get you through dangerous parts. Meditation, it's not that hard to learn. There's lots of resources on YouTube and on the internet to teach you how to meditate. Uh, Sometimes if you can develop yoga practices or Tai Chi, a lot of the Eastern physical activities, exercises, they help promote meditative states. There's something on YouTube called it's binaural beats meditation. There's no words or anything, just a musical beat pattern in the alpha and theta brain waves that your brain responds to. And you can use them just 5 minutes a day just to learn how to train your mind to react appropriately and respond to your emotions. Another therapy approach, if you go to a psychology professional, is cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's where you learn how to link your thoughts and your feelings and behaviors. And when you can identify challenging, negative or irrational thought patterns, you can change your emotional responses. Like, maybe somebody snaps at you on the subway, and it reminds you of somebody cutting in front of you in the grocery store, or, as a kid, somebody cutting in line, to get a treat, or on the ice cream truck. And by taking a step back, you can learn to say, okay, here now in this present moment, am I overreacting to this situation? And a lot of times you learn that it's actually the other person's issue, not yours. We're going to take a brief break for a sponsor break, and I'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery, or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Hi, everybody. We're going to continue talking about how emotions are, well, Candace Pert, for instance, in the book, The Molecules of Emotion, I'll give you a few clues what you'll read about. She proposes that there is a mind-body connection and that the central principle that emotions are not just mental states and emotional states, but it's a biochemical language that helps facilitate communication throughout your body. For instance, if you touch a hot stove, your brain is going to tell the rest of your body, get the heck away from that stove. And she argues that the mind and the body are integrated unit that facilitates almost everything influencing in what we do in life. There's evidence-based practice that the biochemical part of her theories had identified neuropeptides are the actual physiological molecules of emotion. And Dr. Pert's research shows that these neuropeptides are actually the connection to sending the signals, which it's the chemical part that actually triggers that sudden need to run to the restroom or things like that, which again many times is a necessary response. However, it usually, if you can take a minute and assess your situation in reality, you actually have control and you can talk to your mind. It's a mind-body connection. You can talk to your body and say, oh, let's take a minute now, hold your horses, let's just take some deep breaths, box breathing, and just 4 or 5 breaths to slow down and reevaluate what you're reacting to. Because emotions are the main way that your mind and body communicate. And that's how it influences your physical health. It alters the release and the reception of these neuropeptides. And all of this is not just conjecture. This is all based on evidence-based research. A positive thought can trigger a whole bunch of healthy neuropeptides that actually promote healing and well-being. And negative thoughts, it's been shown in research that it promotes a pro-inflammatory response that contributes to illness. There's evidence-based research that one of the major causes of cancer is stress. And by stress, it's not just emotional stress, it's physiological stress. If you've been smoking for many years, that's going to be a factor. If you have a family history, of course, those are factors. But even in the worst physiological situations, what some people call miracles, and I'm certainly a proponent of, the faith healing and prayers as well as what the scientists do. That's why holistic involves both physiological and traditional medicine and holistic medicine. But when the negative thoughts create this inflammatory response, that's when your gut is churning. You've got a migraine. Migraines do have a physiological basis for most people, but they seem to be a lot worse if you have a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of negative energy, and negative chemicals going through your body because of the way you react to things. And it's important that emotional expression for physical health uh, includes all aspects of a person. It means eating healthy foods. We know that sugar increases stress on our body. We know, of course, that smoking and too much sweets, too much of anything actually. Alcohol is converts to 100% sugar. So I've had actually home care patients tell me after I saw a half gallon of empty gin or corn liquor, gee, I didn't know there was sugar in my alcohol, and her blood sugar is over 600. Um, there's a lot of people. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. It just means that you're never too old to learn new things, and you can re-educate yourself to be a healthier person for whatever time we have on. Like, you can help a lot more people, and I'm thinking of people in your family, your immediate circle, if you're the healthy one. Uh, the neuropeptides and the receptors have been found in research to be on the surface of almost every cell in your body, and it connects the brain, your hormone system, and your immune system. The molecules are not just in your brain, but they're in your gut and organs. Diabetes is actually, endocrine is a disease that has a big hormonal effect. It's got kind of a hormonal short circuit in parts of your body. Um, so they're all tied in, and the phenomenon of gut feelings. You have a feeling that something's not right sometimes, and you got to listen to your gut. You don't know if you're making a big decision, and you're on the fence either way. You ask inside. Okay, what do you think I should do? And you usually do get a real answer. But when you have an emotional experience and the neuropeptides are released, uh, in binding to the receptor, it affects the cellular function, and sometimes the cells don't work well for whatever purpose they have in your body. Um, Emotions are a bridge between mind and matter, and Dr. Pert contends that that's the main way that body and mind communicate with each other, and our thoughts and beliefs directly influence how we're feeling. Um, Sometimes maybe you think you're feeling great. It's a beautiful day. Maybe you're just driving. You don't even realize maybe traffic is annoying you until you start having like angry or negative thoughts. And if you stop and see what happened in the previous 5 minutes, or, what you were thinking at the time, maybe you were having a memory about something that didn't go so well earlier in the day at work or something, and your mood changes completely. You could be feeling really miserable, having a bad day. You come home and your dog or cat is waiting for you. Animals are a great way to improve your emotional system. And uh, Lisa Feldman Barrett, in her book, she talks about emotions like anger and fear are universal, and there's actually biological fingerprints uh, that research has identified, and that the emotions are not triggered reactions, but they're created by the brain to handle whatever situation is happening in the moment. Uh, Lisa Feldman Barrett contends that the brain is like a prediction engine, not a reactive one. A lot of times we think, if we're snapping out at somebody and it's inappropriate, we're just overreacting to something. But there's a more efficient way to manage your body's energy than waiting for the sensory input and reacting to it. Like I said, with the dog, if you've had a negative experience, and I love dogs and I hate, but I know that not all dogs had good upbringings, and there are some dogs you can't save. Um, you might see that it's dangerous and you get ready to protect yourself, but you can learn how to kind of recondition yourself. Um, we learn about our emotions, and they're not really, our emotions are kind of what we usually consider our reactions, that everybody assumes, he needs anger management. A lot of relationships go sour because the two parties have different ways of handling their emotions, and neither way is healthy. Um, and as a society, we learn that bodily sensations using the emotional concepts, you get a vague feeling when you're depressed. You have a vague feeling of being tired all the time, no energy. Then your mind kind of spirals. You keep thinking more negative thoughts one after another. But when you take a couple minutes to breathe and change the energy, um, you actually have the power to control your reactions, and and find healthier ways to respond. And you can identify, is this my problem or is this the other party's problem? Obviously, it takes two to tangle, but a lot of times you're reacting to somebody else's issues, and you don't have to do that. You can save a lot of energy and be healthier. When you have a vague feeling of low energy and your heart rate is low and you feel like you're sad, or maybe you know that depression runs in your family, and yes, there is a familial tendency in some families to have family records show, oh, my grandmother was always depressed, or postpartum depression is familial. But just because it's familial, it doesn't mean that you're doomed to be depressed. You have control, and you can actively do things to change the chemicals. Um, the brain's predictions are often tied to managing your body's resources. It's constantly monitoring your physical and your emotional symptoms, um, ways of changing your energy, exercise, lots of water. None of us drink enough water. That's a topic that has come up in many of all of our shows on this network. Um, you have control over things like that. Maybe you're physically wheelchair bound, but you could still do upper body exercises, or do like march in your chair type thing. There's things you can do to change the chemicals. um, I often think of a dog who crossed over Rainbow Bridge last year. My Angel was a spina bifida English bulldog, and what I learned having her from 6 weeks old young is that she never had a mother telling her she was handicapped. And, if she was a person, I feel like she'd have had the same attitude about life. If she wanted to get from point A to point B, she didn't sit there and just moan and get depressed because she can't move, her legs didn't work. She figured out a way to throw those dead legs in front of her and kind of waddle like a walrus or a seal to get to point A to point B so she could play with her other siblings, dog siblings. And our culture tends to be very protective of people that have disabilities. They certainly should have the same rights and abilities and access to things that people without disabilities, but they're not doomed to be miserable. Helen Keller was a good example. She couldn't hear, she couldn't talk, she didn't talk, as we consider language, but she was raised by a caregiver who knew that she had to exist in our sighted and hearing world, and she didn't let that be an excuse. Um, so besides exercise, eating food, getting enough rest is one of the biggies. None of us get enough rest. Harvard Medical School has been saying, excuse me, for over 20 years, part of getting a good night's sleep is actually turning off all electronics an hour before you go to bed so that your brain can shut down. Excuse me, the computer input really does affect the quality of sleep that you get. And we'll be right back in another moment.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Okay, we're going to continue in this section describing some of the ways that you can holistically affect your responses to what you feel like are your emotions, whether they I don't want to use the word valid, but whether they're appropriate for the situation that you're in or not. Obviously, deep sadness for loss, grief is a normal human response to significant loss. And grief can come with not just the loss of life, a close friend or animal. It can come from the loss of a job, a loss of your independence. If you're a senior citizen, you had to give up driving. If you're a diabetic and you had to have one of your toes or your leg amputated, you actually go through a natural process of grief, and that's absolutely normal. But it doesn't have to paralyze you and limit your functioning ability and your success for the rest of your life. Um, it, I'm not belittling the feelings that you get if you're a diabetic and circulation is bad and you end up on dialysis or losing a limb, but you can still have a fulfilling and successful life if you learn how to just accept who you are, learn to love who you are, and that's one of the hardest things for a person to do. Physical activity, it reduces the stress hormones and increases the endorphins, which boost your mood. We have a false idea that many times our comfort foods also do the same things. Sugar might boost your mood, or ice cream might help for a little while. But then you're going to bounce down when that sugar level goes down, and you'll be feeling worse than you were before you had the unhealthy food. But exercise doesn't mean you have to run 5 miles a day, lift weights. It just means always be moving, because your blood flows better in your body if you're moving. Getting adequate sleep. If you don't have enough sleep, it affects and impairs your prefrontal cortex, and it's a lot harder to regulate emotions. It's a lot harder to do anything when you don't have enough sleep. People that work shift, like nurses, police, people that work especially the night shifts or their rotating shifts, they usually have very poor quality sleep. And when you do that, you just can't function at your best level during the periods that you are awake, and you're just constantly tired. You're constantly frustrated. And very often you don't have the energy to actually look and see what is going on when you feel so crappy. Nutrition is important. A balanced diet with the essential nutrients support neurotransmitter production, and it increases overall brain health. They've shown in studies, dementia prevention studies, people that do Sudoku, play chess, word search puzzles, things like that. You're keeping your mind using multiple sensory parts of your body, and you feel a lot more like a whole person, despite all the losses you've had in your life. Research has shown that, even like the first time a child maybe who had poor vision, but it wasn't picked up until they were like 3 or 4, if you could have that childlike innocence, the child gets his first pair of glasses and he looks outside and sees clouds for the first time, or maybe ants on the ground. They have these cochlear implants for children that are born hearing impaired, and it's just such a rewarding, exciting response, and that's a valid emotional response. You're happy for the child, you're just amazed at science, and the life is so much better. senior citizens who I never understood why my parents didn't like to wear their hearing aids until I needed them. Um, and then I totally understood, and I didn't want to wear them either. But research shows that if you're isolated, if you can't hear, you're not talking to people, and having that social contact, it actually increases the risk of getting dementia. It increases negative emotions. Uh, we need that social interaction with people. We need a healthy social interaction. Uh, if you've had a bad marriage or two, don't, I'm not saying keep trying until you find the good one, unless that works for you, but usually it takes a lot of energy and you still feel the same way. There's a saying, wherever you go, there you are. So if you leave a relationship because you're not happy, and of course, if it's not safe, that, obviously that's a different story, but you're going to still be unhappy in the next situation because you haven't figured out what's really going on that's making you unhappy. It's so easy to look outside of ourselves, but so many of the answers we need are actually within ourselves. Um, and if there's so many resources out there, again, if your emotions are really intensely negative, you're really feeling hopeless, if your thoughts are out of control to the point that you're thinking of hurting yourself or somebody else, you need to get professional help. Uh, you can call the 988 suicide hotline. That's not just for people that are thinking of killing themselves. And please, reach out for help. Somebody you can trust, a religious person, a family member you trust, or the 988 line. Get a professional in your life to help you get through the rough times. And we all have rough times. Um, Unrealistic expectations sometimes create some of these negative feelings. But one of the ways that holistic practitioners actually identify the intensity of emotions, we do something called applied kinesiology or muscle testing. And it involves asking the body questions. And with energy medicine techniques, we're actually able to bypass the connection that's creating the negative thoughts. EFT is a tool, an NMT. There are tools that help reprogram the autonomic nervous system so that you can get healthier responses. Um, but the real takeaway message for this program is you don't have to be miserable. You can be safe. You can be healthy no matter what your limitations are. And you can learn to release emotions in a healthy way that are not destructive, that don't complicate your life even more. Um, and you are in control. There's lots of help out there to help you, realize what you need to do for this. Societal Society is really kind of cruel sometimes. You know, Usually the bullies in school or the bullies at work, they're people that having a lot of negative experiences typically. Um, and it's their problem. You have to be safe, but sometimes you can kill them with kindness. It really does work more often than you expect. We had a football game last week. Again, another Philadelphia team where the opposing team, opponent actually spit at the one that got in trouble because he reacted in a unprofessional and unhealthy way. But the whole background is that the other person actually spit in his direction first, but it only hit the ground in front of his feet. The other guy was out of control, and I love my Philly sports, but it's a learning lesson. We see other people go through these things. We don't laugh at them. We realize, gee, how do I react in situations like that? Um, and that's one reason why we should modulate the stimuli, like watching too much TV or too many YouTube videos. Get what you need to be an informed adult and educated American, but don't do anything too extreme. Just like one or two drinks, if you don't have any physiological problems, might be okay for you, but drinking 24 hours a day is not. Watching the negative news that is out there sometimes 24 hours a day is kind of be compared to drinking 24-hour, excessive drinking. It's not healthy for you. Excess of anything, even excess exercising, is not healthy. Excess water, too much water, is not healthy. So there's these books that I mentioned, How Emotions Are Made, The Molecules of Emotion, and The Emotion Code. They're all very good resources. And as I said, I'm not benefiting from promoting them. I just found them in my own research to be extremely helpful to understand, for the layperson to understand. And the biggest message that I want to get out there is that you are in control, you have power. And the universe gave you these emotions as signals for your mind and body to work together, but you are still the master of your body and the master of your mind, no matter what limitations it has. So I'm hoping that some of this has been helpful for you. You really have more control. And a lot of times, always got an anger problem, so we make excuses, or we stay out of the way of a negative person. Safety has to be paramount, but you have to understand that perhaps somebody's not reacting to you in the present moment. You might remind them of a bad situation they've had in their past. Road rage is a good example. We see unmodulated emotion all the time. People die because of road rage. Physical property is damaged. We need to help ourselves, because in the end, you're all you've got, and you've got lots of tools out there. So you can actually. I'm going to go in just a couple minutes on the actual neurotransmitters and the hormones. Dopamine is a drug. It's in a lot of our psychiatric meds. It's kind of a reward transmitter, neurotransmitter. It's associated with pleasure, motivation, and learning. If you have like an aha moment, you're increasing the dopamine. If you accomplish something you've been trying for months or years, even, when you finally realize you can do it in spite of yourself, it really does give you a natural high with the dopamine. Serotonin is a hormone that regulates your mood, your sleep, and appetite. And when the level is too low, it's usually linked to depression and anxiety. There are certain vitamins and supplements that can help increase that. But even though I'm holistic and I promote as many holistic modalities as I can, if you have a chemical brain imbalance of any kind physiologically that's been diagnosed, you might at least temporarily need some actual medication to give you the strength to overcome the immediate sting, and then you can be strong enough to try other methods. There's a lot of trapped emotions inside our body, and Nelson talks about a heart wall, where the subconscious mind traps emotions and uses it as building material to create an energetic barrier around the heart to protect it from pain. And it means it's trying to protect your body, and the only way, I guess, that the universe gave you that skill. But the negative side of that is that if you're numb and you're disconnected, you actually can't you can't do anything about I'm sorry, a little distraction here. You can't have a healthy life. You've got to release the emotions, and it'll just help you go a lot further in life. We'll be back to close in just one moment, and we'll finish the show. If anybody has questions, you can leave them on my YouTube channel. But I hope a lot of this so far has been helpful, and I'll be right back. Thank you.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Hey everybody, just to close off the show, I want to review a couple key points. Remember that your emotional response is the result of your autonomic nervous system, when the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the gas pedal that just, when it's triggered by the amygdala at the base of your brain, you have an increased heart rate, dilated pupils, and that adrenaline surge, and increased cortisol that prepares your body to respond to a perceived threat. If it turns out the threat's really not well and you always live with high cortisol levels and never relax to get down to normal hormone levels, you're going to have negative physiological effects and be a candidate for a lot of possible medical problems. The parasympathetic nervous system is like the brake. After a threat has passed, that's the part of your sympathetic nervous system that takes over, trying to calm the body down, lower your heart rate, and promote relaxation. And PTSD is something that often triggers emotions that seem to be out of control. I have a rescue dog who I thought would be the easiest in the world to rehome when I saved him from a kill shelter. Well, this dog by 18 months had been in a kill shelter 5 times. He has PTSD big time. There are times he's a multi-pose, so you would think he's the perfect home companion for children, allergy proof. But it didn't take me long to find out why he had been taken back to the kill shelter 5 times. Obviously, his earliest experiences must not have been very healthy relationships with the owners that he had. There are times that I've had him 18 months already. He's not going anywhere. He is on Prozac and some bacon-flavored CBD oil. And his behaviors, he's learning to trust, so he's calming down a little bit. But sometimes unprovoked, middle of the night, he'll just wake up and lunge towards me like he's going to attack. And thankfully, he's always woken up completely and realizes he's not in wherever he was dreaming about. And that's a extreme example, but it's not unlike the way humans react sometimes. If you're raised in a family where you're told you're dumb all the time and you'll never amount to anything, as an adult, it's really hard to convince yourself, but it's really worth the effort to try, because all of us have value. All of us can actually conquer our emotions, improve our physical health. The extreme problems do need a medical professional, but holistic health offers a lot of symptom management tools that, as you improve your health because your symptoms are decreased, you're able to function a whole lot better in life and deal with whatever is facing you that might be a serious medical problem. If you have a lot of emotional and stress issues, and then you get diagnosed with a serious illness on top of it, it's going to be hard for you to cope and do what you need to do to overcome the physiological issue, whether it's cancer or heart disease or or whatever. Um, People often think that they smoke to control their stress, or they eat their comfort foods to control their stress. You're actually increasing the stress in your body. And there's lots of relatively inexpensive ways, and it's all inexpensive when you compare the cost of what the ongoing medical care will be for the complications of bad habits. But it's something that we all have control over. Uh, and if we learn some techniques that are pretty simple, not easy, but simple, there's a difference. Uh, you start feeling better, you actually would be amazed at what capabilities and how far you can go. You can accomplish anything you want to if you can overcome. I mean, we're our biggest impediment to most of us for what we're trying to do when we're not successful. We tend to believe, oh, my parents didn't want me to read books, or my boss doesn't like me, I'll never get ahead in my job, and things like that. But if you change your energy, you're not going to need that boss. You'll find the right place for you to function and be successful. Uh, and you'll feel so much better, and people around you will also start feeling better. Um, but it's all about really taking responsibility for yourself, for your own health, uh, not beating yourself up if you have a hard time controlling your anger and your emotions, but know that there's help out there, whether it's, if it's really, really hard or you need extra medication temporarily, um, that's okay, because it's a lot easier. It's like, if you're a diabetic and you're borderline and you're trying to eat right foods, and it just be so much easier for you to lose weight if you're on one of the GLP medications out there. That doesn't mean you're a failure, you're weak. It just means that it gives you the impetus. You start seeing success as you start to lose weight on Jardiance or one of the other, Ozempic. Uh, then you realize, wow, I'm doing this and it's okay, it's safe, and I'm going to be healthy. I feel better already. And emotional treatments are the same way. So I'd like to thank all of you for being here for the show today. If you have any questions, I invite you to find more information on my YouTube channel. Please share this with your friends and like it, people that could benefit from this information. And at any time, if anybody wants to reach out and ask for particular topics, maybe specific to your situation, uh, I have the resources to find the information you're looking for that is reliable and trustworthy. So thank you for joining me today. We will see you next week, and have a happy, healthy week. And, you're okay. No matter, you might be having a bad day, but it doesn't change who you are as a person. You have no control over how people react to you, but they will react in a more positive way if you can emit more positive energy. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Take care.
This has been The Holistic Nurse with host Peggy Smith. Tune in each week where you're encouraged to send in questions and receive private responses and suggestions if appropriate. Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern.